here tonight. There's 2 I can definitely see. But Padge did assure me there was 3 tonight. We have Allied Squire, who is in the Ferrari. And we have Chaz in the Aston Martin. We also have E69 F1. Last race was in round 7, so has not been with us for a good 9 or 10 races, so welcome back, E69. Obviously, those 3, really hope you have the best of races and hope that you enjoy your time in IRL circuit. However, is one that you need to have a lot of focus for. And as we go on board with TD, who is on the medium compound tyre, thank you very much, Stone Shuffle, for using your Prime sub on us. If you don't know, if you have Amazon Prime, you can link it to your Twitch account and you get 1 free subscribe every month for any creator of your choice. Thank you for choosing it with us. Hope you enjoy. TD navigates the first couple of corners well, but through turn 4 you can see just losing the rear end. That is going to be a common theme. Quite a number of corners on this track will catch you out in that respect. Carito then. Up to the driver how much turn in and how much speed you take into the first couple of corners. You kind of throw it in there. Easy to run wide and invalidate, but obviously if you choose not to invalidate, chances are you may not have as much speed. Your lap time won't be as good. Navigates the hairpin of turn 5 pretty well onto the double right of 6 and 7, where it is really, really tricky. That corner there, the right-hander, so tricky on traction at the exit. We can count on 2 hands the amount of people who struggle with that on Tuesday night. TD with a blistering 1 minute 33 will go again after that mistake on his first run. And coming into sector 3 now, it's a little bit more straightforward. Don't expect to see anyone dropping it in those left-right sections. But that final corner is a little bit tricky. Just have to make sure you don't bum it up. And there you have it. Your track for the week. Hole at the start of the stream came back with people thinking that this track is absolutely goated, even with its, you could say, flaws, or as Longson has spun at the exit of turn number 8. Very easily done. Opting for the slower compound tyre. That's a bit of a slide and invalid, so this lap won't count. He'll have to go again. Same for Asthma Frog. Asthma Frog is deciding to go for another run. Chaz out on a time lap as well. See what he can manage on his first flying lap here in the league. Squire has gone P2 on his first flying lap in the league as well. Not too bad, beating the likes of Padge and Richard. Obviously TD's lap, that is not representative of his pace. He will go quicker. As Chaz goes 7 milliseconds behind Squire into third currently. Carito sat there at the top on an 18.1 in the early portion of the session. Full quali, of course, which means the bottom 2 will be heading out of this session. I know we are expecting exotic planes at some point in quali. So if he joins in Q1, it will be the bottom 3 heading out. Asmafrog has taken off the ERS. On board then with Smaller Smiley, who is not on a flying lap either. And a lot driver of the day in Saudi Arabia for an excellent P4 finish. I think he dropped to P5 after Josh's penalty got removed, which bumped him from 7th to P2, but still, marvellous drive from Greg last week. Well deserving of the Driver of the Day awards. Evening, Steely. How are you doing? Fury second fastest at the moment, 18.3. 3.2 the time to beat still. Plenty of people in the mid to high 1 minute 18s at the moment. But what can Killian manage? This season, I think it's been fair to say, has been dominated. And I do not exaggerate that word. It has been dominated by Killian, Josh and Deflated. All season, those three have been on top of their game in 81. Will this be a repeat performance, or will we see some other people leading the pack? TD has improved from that 1 minute 30 odd lap time to an 18.2, puts himself up in second, and Killian does an 18.3, which puts him in fourth. Asthma Frog, nice lap indeed, 18 flat, goes top of the tree for Q1. Evening guys, just have a quick nosy before jumping on stream. Hope your stream goes well, Steely. If I remember in time, I'll drop you a raise. All good, cheers. How are you? I'm very well, thank you, mate. Very well, thank you. Had a nice day off work. Not done anything. It's been lovely. Josh, P3 on an 18.1. And Squire goes fastest. First one is the 17s this evening. Joseph Hales has been locked. That is why he has not improved from that 18.7 down in P11 at the moment. So not quite in the drop zone, but obviously being blocked doesn't help. Top Gun. Track is getting quicker. People are getting faster. 17.5. Fastest we've seen so far. He comes across the line. And P8 for the time being. In that McLaren fighting for the Constructors' Championship. Adrian obviously is the full-time driver in that second McLaren seat alongside Deflated, but not able to race here this evening. Deflated will be hoping Richard can put in a good shift for the McLaren team. Bit of lag. And some more. And he has lagged out, which means he is automatically teleported back into the pits. That is not ideal at all. Richard, with only 3 minutes left, if he gets back in with about 2 minutes 20 left, he could still get out on track for another run. He does need to join very, very quickly if he wants. It's coming to the end of Sector 3 on his outlap. TD's back out on track. Greg is out on track. Joseph Hales too, after being blocked on his first attempt to improve. Everyone else in the pits or has retired. Remember, it's only the bottom two heading out of this session. So Smaller is safe as things stand and has a couple of tenths in hand back to Greg. Exotic Planes has joined. Oh, now this is interesting timing. I think it's probably just a bit too late. If he does get out and get and gets a lap in, but he's just decided to retire. That's fair enough. But yeah, that would have been interesting if Exotic decided to set a lap time there in the Haas car. Evening, Exotic. Hope you're well, mate. How are you doing? So, smaller Smiley. His previous best was on the mediums, an 18.7. Improves to an 18.3. Pops him up into the top 10, where he will be safe. Joseph's starting a new lap. Greg, though, is on an out lap, so is on track. So he has pranked me. Longson's in the pits and no more time for him, unfortunately, to set a new lap time, so Longson will be out in Q1. 17th at the moment, but could be 18th if Exotic gets around to start a new time. Joseph here. 3/4 of a second up through the middle sector. If he can keep this clean, it'll be a very low 1:18 or a high 1:17, which will obviously get him through. I'm not sure Exotic's going to make it. You can see coming around the final couple of corners in that white Haas car, Joseph Els goes second fastest, and that will be him through. So Exotic 18th on the grid, Longson 17th, one more spot up for grabs. Padge, who has already retired, might find himself under a little bit of pressure here from Richard and Greg. E69 is safe, thanks to Padge's retirement. There's no way Padge can beat E69. And obviously then everyone upwards of E69 will be safe as well. Killian does a 17.4. And obviously will be through. Deflated Wee does a 17.4 of his own and beats Killian to the Q1 summit. What about Deflated Wee's teammate? Richard can't improve, which means it's now down to Greg. If Greg can get 2/10 on this, Richard will be out of qualifying. And he can't. Greg has just lost his advantage in that final sector, so Greg, unfortunately, for him, will be out in Q1, and Richard holds on. But TD comes across the line to go 5th fastest, but he was already safe anyways. Okay, it says Exotic, fair enough. Oh, you paused to retire in the pits and it brought you back out on track. Well, there you go. Padge don't feel the pressure. So, Deflated and Killian, the usual suspects at the top there. Nice to see Top Gun and E69 challenging as well. Maybe that could be a pole position fight that we haven't seen this season so far. Exotic, after joining late in quali, will start 18th place on the grid. Longson in P17, Greg in P16, and everyone else, including our 2 debutants, Chaz and Squire, are through to Q2. So E69 won't manage to beat his 17.5 from last session. The medium compound are quite a bit slower than the softs here. Expect maybe a high 17, low 18, I would say, from this run, if it was a good one. Stone Shuffle. We lost something where they gave free tyre choice at the start of the race. Yeah, it's hard to know what we've lost, but it does feel like we have lost something. I mean, I don't have a problem with it, but things have just changed, and sometimes change is good, sometimes change is not so good. But yeah, I know completely what you mean by that. setups will be, obviously, on this game a little bit more close together. The wings, obviously, going from 1 to 50 now, obviously makes a huge difference. Oh, and that's a bit too much curb on the final corner there. That is the price you pay, unfortunately, for taking a bit too much curb there. Squire has invalidated his first attempt. Fury coming to the end of Sector 2. Trying to remember my train of thought now. Carito, quickest on 18.5. Maybe it'll come back to me. Yeah, setups with the 1 to 50 wings. Obviously, people will go for very similar setups in time trial and everything, but then when it comes to the race, you need something that's stable and secure, whilst also something that will give you enough straight line speed to make some overtakes on the straights. So, expect to see some kind of differing setups being run at this track. It's not one that a lot of people would have practiced a lot. It's not on the real F1 calendar, of course, and people tend to follow that pretty religiously, I'd say. Fastest times flying in left, right and centre. Fury went fastest, then Joseph Hales, then Killian, who has repeated his 17.4 from Q1. TD, this one will not count. He has cut the corner at some point, and same story for Little Chaz. I think actually on this game they extended the life of the medium and the hard compound, especially the hard compound tyres. Nowadays it's very common to run the hard compound for a very long time, which means there's no point doing a two-stop. The only point doing a two-stop is if you do a 100% race at a certain track where tyre wear is very high. So yeah, the only reason you would do a two-stop here is if a safety car came out or you were pitting for a fastest lap attempt. Which I guess makes it better for the streamers, because they kind of know what strategy people are doing, but it does take a little bit of excitement out. I can understand that. Only half the drivers with times on the board. There comes number 9 as Chaz goes 5th fastest. 18.4 ahead of Carito. So on his debut that is a pretty good attempt if you ask me, but this track is only going to get quicker. Joseph Hale's happy with that, considering it was a used set on 15%. On an 18.0, that's pretty good if you ask me, Joseph. Might even be quick enough to get you through into Q3. It'll be a little bit nervy towards the end. People will be dropping into the 17s towards the end of this session, but that 18.0 might just be quick enough to get you through. Who knows? So no prior lap time this session for Smaller. One of 6 drivers yet to get a time on the board, but one of 6 drivers all out on track as we speak. And it's going to be an 18.3 for Smaller, so just behind his teammate and good friend Asma Frog. Mercedes at the moment sitting pretty, but still got plenty of him tonight. How does he navigate this final sector? Very smooth steering. No hesitations or corrections. And there is the end result. 17.2 for Josh. Of course, it's not about being the quickest in Q2. It's all about not being in the bottom 5. But for Josh and Killian, their times will be very safe. Deflated Wheeze popped up in there in the 17s as well on a 0.6. Remember, Josh leads Deflated Wee by 11 points, and Josh leads Killian by 43 points. So, with 3 races left and 78 points up for grabs, where Josh, Killian and we qualify will be of the utmost importance. Coming to the end of this current run and dives into the pits. On those times alone, might be somewhere near the drop zone. But as we say, plenty of opportunities on this track to make a mistake, to lose time. So it's not guaranteed that you will hit the perfect lap. A few drivers starting to come out for their final runs. Top Gun back out on the track for an outlap. Richard as well. Padge and Carrito on flyers as we speak, behind Squire on track. Bad lap, says TD. Well, maybe quick enough to get you through, who knows. Squire on limited ERS as he started the lap, 18.1. But is replaced by Carrito, who has done a 17.6 just moments ago. Asthma Frog, meanwhile, is 3/10 to the good in the middle sector. A 3/10 improvement here would drop him into the 17.9s, which could see him as high as P6 ahead of TD. That'd be a pretty good effort from Asthma Frog. TD, Wee, Killian all retiring from the session early. No more times for them in this session. Asthma Frog, fortunately for TD's sake, has not managed to beat TD, who really needs to get a time on the board now. Mercedes there, just getting out of the way, as they should do. Allied Squire has retired in 9th. Richard has joined, but with only 1 minute 20 left, there is not going to be enough time. So Richard's unlucky streak so far seems to be continuing with that disconnect. Top Gun does a 17.9 and goes 8th, which means Smaller Smiley now needs to improve. But with that invalidation, he's going to have to really power through this lap just to get another run on the board. 9th. Chaz and Smaller at risk. Squire's 18.1 is the time to beat Joseph Hales and Top Gun out on track. But Top Gun has just set a time, so maybe that is the best that Top Gun can manage in this session. It's getting close. E69 2 seconds up, but that first sector was where he lost all of his time last run. Smaller Smiley coming around the final corner has missed the checkered flag, so he will be out of qualifying, and 11th is the best that he can manage. Top Gun comes back into the pits with not enough ERS to go for a second run. Here comes Joseph Hales across the line and goes 6th and cements his spot in Q3. Next across the line is E69. And he goes 5th. Nice lap there. Pushes Squire out of Q2 on his debut. Chaz can only manage 11th, which means both debutants out in Q2. qualifying session. They see it top 10, 7 tenths separates them. And some very impressive lap times on the board so far. Richard struggling with the disconnections here tonight. Very unfortunate. We'll start 15th on the grid. Padge in 14th for the Grand Prix. Smiley in P13. And then we have the two debutants, Squire and Chaz, just missing out on a spot in Q3 by a couple of tenths, but decent efforts in their AT1 debut. But Josh leading the way so far. Will he take yet another pole position in AT1? Extreme business as a red ball of possibly Carito. Yeah, it is Carito. Comes flying through and tries to overtake TD. That's very cheeky from Carito. I mean, he's allowed to, of course, but that, of course, now means that everyone will be slowing up in Sector 3. That's why the yellow flags are out. Joseph Pole out of Noma, mark my words, says Exotic. Oh, E69 has invalidated, so see what Deflated does. Takes the apex to 5 beautifully. Keeps it in 4th gear, interesting. And again, 4th gear for turn 9. Very difficult corner. We saw multiple spins there on Tuesday night in the race. Sun seems to have gone into the clouds a little bit, so track temp maybe has gone down by a temp or so, just depends. I'm not a weather forecaster, but I'll try my hand at anything. Evening, Roro. How you doing, mate? And oh, someone else will get pole aside from we, Killian, Josh, or Fury. Fury starts a new lap. Go on board then with Carito as he crosses the line to do a 17.7. Killian just behind him on track, 17.3. Joseph Hales does a 17.5 and goes 3rd fastest. Asmafrel crosses the line to go 6th. And Fury comes across the line to go 2nd fastest. So those top 3 only separated by a 10th. Be the last one out on track for their lap. Where can Josh put that red ball? He knows that we and Killian, his championship rivals, are up there in the top 3, and Josh does the quickest lap time we have seen this week so far, 17.1. E69 will come across the line to set a new time, but with only limited ERS left. And Top Gun wasn't on a flyer anyway. That spin just cements that theory to Josh. Deflated on a remarkable point scoring streak in Assist Tier 1, has scored points in every single 81 race, stretching back to Season 1. At the final race of the season in Abu Dhabi, it's gone 50 races now in a row where Deflated has scored points in 81 consecutively. It's a remarkable streak. It looks almost a certainty that 1010 is going to win the No Assist Championship. Only needs 2 points to guarantee the title for the next 2 rounds. 81 could easily go down to the last race of the season in Japan. Assist Tier 2 could be decided this week, could be decided next week. So you'll have to tune in for the next couple of Sundays. Love Spain, great track, says Stone Shuffle. I agree. Beautiful track to drive. A couple of odd tricky corners here and there, but aside from that, brilliant track. I hope next season with the new track layout, it's just going to make Spain better. Validated last corner, says E69. That will explain why he stayed out for a lap. Next game it will be good. This game I'm not a fan. Hooking up the first sector is the best feeling, says Joseph House. So people looking forward to Spain next week, it would seem. We can only hope that next game they've ironed out the bugs. That would be an amazing gift to us all. Asma Frog, over half a second up, would put him around about a 17.7, which is what Carito has done on his first run, so possible P6 on the line here for Asma Frog. Maybe into the top 5 if he can nail this last sector. And the first final runs for Quali Asma Frog goes 1 millisecond ahead of Carito. We said Quali was going to be close. Well, can't get much closer than that. Everyone else still in the pits with 2 minutes 30 to go. It's going to be a bit frantic, as we saw a bit earlier with people queuing in Sector 3. I imagine there's going to be a lot more of that. If I were a driver, I'd be getting out of the pits right now. Avoid that rush. Doesn't really matter if you're the last car on track. Just make sure you get an opportunity at the flying run in the first place. Top Gun then was one of the two to go out a bit earlier and is rewarded with a P6 start as things stand. Not too bad there from Top Gun. Asma Frog revving the car in neutral as some drivers, you can see how much ERS is gaining from that. That is a little bit of a, it's not a hack in the sense of an actual cheating hack. It's just one of those game mechanics that you can make the most of. This quali session is not over yet. 4 drivers in with a shout at pole. Maybe some of those in the bottom 6 as well. This is going to be fast, it's going to be frantic, and I'm sure I'm going to lose my voice in the next minute or so. Joseph Hales, brilliant first couple of corners, hooking it up beautifully. And a pretty good turn 4. An attempt to the goods. More of that, and it will be a low 17. Very smooth through 5. Dropping down to 6. Missing the apex of 8, but navigates turn 9. As good as you can do there. Through the double right, pick your braking point. Some drivers opt for a wider entry into that double right, but Joseph Hell's taken it more traditionally. Again, misses an apex, but not the end of the world. If you miss an apex, you can take more speed out of a corner sometimes. It's a pretty good lap from Joseph, but where is it going to be on the timing screens? It's a 17.2 and goes 3rd fastest. Who's next across the line? It's TD and goes 7th. Carito is next across the line and goes from P9 to P6. And here comes E69 and he goes P6 ahead of Carito at the dying embers. And here comes Deflated, who is a 10th up through Sector 2. This is good enough as it stands for provisional pole. And it's into the 16s for Deflated. What about Fury across the line? And it is an improvement, but misses out on 3rd by 2 milliseconds. Here comes Killian now, who goes onto the 2nd row of the grid. And what is Josh up to? A 10th up in Sector 2, but he needs more than that. He needs 2 tenths to get pole position away from Wheat. Is he going to do it? I don't even know. No, he hasn't. Deflated has snatched it by a matter of hundredths. 11 milliseconds in it. Wow. Well, we said it was going to be frantic. I can't imagine a quali session like that before. Deflated, we take a bow. What a fantastic lap time that was to steal pole position away from Josh. Deflated is holding up his end of the bargain. Deflated 12th pole position in IRL. Many congratulations. And less than 8/10 separate the top 10. Yep, indeed, Joseph. Very, very close. Let's do featured driver. And this will be the final Assist Tier 1 featured driver of the season. Hope you've enjoyed getting to know our drivers. In case you're new around here, featured driver is a form we ask the full-time drivers to fill out. It's a way for us to get to know the people behind the gamer tag, the people behind the rig. And I've left this guy to last on purpose because he is one of the founding members of the league, IIRL Padge. He wears an awful lot of hats. He is extremely well regarded in this league, possibly the most liked person, and certainly does an awful lot for us. Padge has not specified his age. Fair enough to him. From a place called Gloucestershire in the UK. He works as a warehouse operative PT, and his hobbies and interests include music, fitness, gaming, and movies. He races on a wheel, specifically a TX XW TM open wheel. His favourite drivers include Lewis Hamilton and Michael Schumacher, the two people many considered for the GOAT of F1. Favourite track? Says probably Japan, which will be at round 18. His racing strengths include not crashing and clean driving. That means no time penalties, no incidents. And his Season 4 goals, anywhere in the points, will make him happy. And when asked about who he considers a rival, says probably Greg, Colucci and TD when he doesn't spin. TD will kill him for that one. But Padge is certainly one of the managers here and is an absolute legend. Now a perfect opportunity for me to thank Padge for everything he's done for Season 4 for the league. And yeah, it would not be the same without you, mate. Thank you for all your hard work. And yeah, you're an absolute legend. Ramifications for the championship. Not too sure what's going to happen in this Grand Prix. But in 45 minutes or so, you will find out where the championships are going to be won and lost. Padge has a drive-through penalty for a jump start, and it's a fantastic start for Deflated Wee. Carito, you see, on the outside of turn 1 there, looking to go around the outside of 3 different drivers, and they're all jockeying for position here. It is so close. They're going 2-3 wide, some of them, as they all jockey for position. TD ahead of Top Gun now into turn 4 and up into 8th, but Top Gun now fighting back on TD, and they're still absolutely side by side. Top Gun off the track and getting a bit of oversteer, and TD has to avoid contact with Carito ahead, and as a result just gets a bit of a snap. And oh, Longson has gone off, I think, trying to make sure he doesn't hit TD. So differing fortunes for some of these drivers. Absolutely lightning start from E69, who is up into 3rd place. However, for Asma Frog and Longson, it's not been the starts of they were hoping for. Oh. Let's have a look then at the tyres everyone's using, and they are all on the hard compound tyre, with the exception of Richard, who has opted for some colour coordination with his McLaren. Richard will obviously have a little bit more grip in the opening portion of the race as Killian gets past Joseph and takes hold of P4. Padge serves his drive-through. Pretty smart decision to do that straight away. In case a safety car comes out, then he won't have to worry about that drive-through at all. Longson has decided that lap 1 is enough and has retired. Squire's boxed and has gone onto a new set of medium compound tyres. Everyone else in a big old train. Asthma Frog has had a bit of a problem at turn 5, just getting back going again. Smaller Smiley duking it out with the newest member of our league, Chaz. Exotic Planes, you can see there, trying to get his nose involved as well. That snap of oversteer is left invulnerable to Richard, who now has 11th place in his control. DRS enabled, lap 3. Not down this main straight. They will get it out of turn 4. Feel like an overtake is brewing here somewhere in this group. There you can see the DRS is now enabled and able to use if you are within a second of the car ahead. Exotic has gone down the inside of Richard there. Richard left the gap, but not move not completed for Exotic on this occasion. I'm sure he would love to get past Richard as soon as he can. Try and make some inroads to get some points. And there he goes. Richard opts for the switchback manoeuvre. It doesn't quite pay off for him. TD now on the back of Richard as well. Interesting battle with the AlphaTauri teammates, Fury and Joseph, very similarly paced. I wonder if we're going to see some more squabbling between them two. Lap 4 in deflated leads by 1 second there or thereabouts. E69 is within touching distance of Josh. Killian not in DRS range of the top 3 at this moment in time. Maybe just conserving his ERS for a while. Doesn't want to completely drain the battery. Oh, little Chaz spinning out of turn 4, and that sent him back to 14th. And crucially, 4 seconds adrift of Greg. Killian has put the hammer down slightly, as has deflated. Trying to get Josh out of that DRS window. Killian back in the DRS window. It means now Joseph Hale is just a couple of seconds behind that top 4. But has his hands full with Fury, Carito, and Top Gun behind. Gap starting to appear. Looks a little bit like the Tour de France. The leaders kind of run away with it in the opening moments. Packs and groups start to form. Fury overtakes his teammate down the main straight with DRS. Plenty of laps remaining. Where you're driving now could easily be in a different place at the end of the race. Richard and TD side by side. Richard's red light is flashing at the back of the car. That means he's got less than 10% battery. They are going side by side through turn 8. Unfortunately, there's just not quite enough room for Richard there. TD keeps 11th place under his control, and that has given a bit of breathing room for Smaller and Exotic. Potentially here could see a move from Exotic to Smaller Smiley. Deflated Wee doing well in the opening few laps to keep Josh out of that DRS window. Josh does not have DRS down the straight, but E69 and Killian do behind. But Josh not under any immediate pressure. It suggests that people are saving their ERS for a moment when it really matters. Bit of a slide from Exotic through the exit of turn 1. Gives Smaller Smiley a bit of breathing room and gives TD a little bit of hope behind. Battle continues between Fury, Joseph, Kurito, Top Gun. Battle for 5th place. Two main overtaking opportunities on this track are into turn 5 after the DRS zone and out of turn 1, or into turn 1 after the big DRS zone. So through the middle portion of this lap, don't expect to see many overtakes. It will just be a bit of a DRS fest. No battles happening outside of the points except for TD and Richard. Check in with the leaders, see how E69 is doing, trying to follow Josh. Josh obviously trying to get within DRS range of the race leader. But Deflated doing a really good job keeping Josh at bay. One early retirement, Longson retired on lap 1 in the pits. A few too many issues with the car perhaps. 17 running. However, everyone from 13th downwards has had some kind of issue. You see, E69 is gaining, but only by a couple of tenths on that straight, so needs to be pretty close to Josh coming out of the final couple of corners in order to go for a move into turn 1. Exotic gets past Smaller into the first corner, and Smiley has spun the car at turn 1. Both Mercedes with spins in the opening 8 laps. Still the battle rages on. Can Josh get anywhere close to Deflated? Squire picks up the first time penalty of the evening. 3 seconds will be added on to his final race finishing time. Won't mean too much for Squire at the moment. Let's have a look at the straight line speed difference. Nothing to separate Wee and Josh. Running almost identical wing setup. None of these top two have any straight line speed advantage over the other. It could be a very monotonous few laps until we enter the pit stop window. May not be the most exciting race we've seen in the season. this may be the group to give us that on-track action. Carito's got past Joseph Hales in the past couple of laps, and Top Gun following in Carito's footsteps. Oh, and a spin for Fury. You can see out of turn 9. And that is unfortunate for Fury. Was running up there in P5, having a great race so far. But now finds himself in 9th place, defending from TD and Richard. TD with a moment on lap 1. Was running up in the points, but now fighting over P9. Richard will be the first to make a strategic pit stop off those medium compound tyres. But when will it happen? Fury trying to defend from TD, but the DRS just too powerful there for TD, and he gets past into 9th. Fury in the background there, just running wide at turn 1, gets a 3-second time penalty. Can Fury fight back here out of turn 4? TD uses some ERS, it would look like. Top Gun seems to be the one of this group to take this race by the scruff of the neck. Start stamping some authority on this. Needs to make his way past Carito. But he's got a great opportunity if he can stay this close out of the final corner. Squire has retired on track, and that is a VSC. And that is a crash. That is not a manual retirement. That is a unfortunate crash out of turn 4. No full safety car, thankfully for the leaders. They do not want their advantage to disappear. And a couple of pit stops. Carito, Joseph Hales, both boxing, I imagine, onto the medium compounds. This VSC is going to run out pretty soon. However, by pitting under the VSC, you save some time in your pit stop because the other drivers aren't racing at full capacity. VSC still active, so Carito and Joseph Hales have saved quite a bit of time here. Oh, and Chaz, drive-through penalty for speeding under the virtual safety car. In case you don't know what that means, when the virtual safety car comes out, oh, Joseph Hales, cold tyres, no grip. Just needs to get them up to temperature. When the virtual safety car comes out, you will have a delta, a certain lap time you need to hit, and it is slower, which means you do need to reduce your speed so they can clear the accident away. And if you speed, when the virtual safety car finishes, you get a drive-through penalty. That is exactly what Chaz has done. And our second drive-through of the evening after Padge off the jump start. Richard pitted as well under that VSC and is now onto the hard compound for the remainder of the race. Greg too has pitted. Deflated leads Josh by 1.5 seconds. Again, not much to separate them, but in the last few laps, Deflated has pulled out a few tenths. E69 doing really well to stay with the top two, who, as we said earlier in the stream, that top three, we, Josh and Killian, have dominated this tier of racing. They've shared the podium between them 4 times in 16 races, so that means there are other drivers who are quick enough to get on the podium in this tier. But overall, we, Josh and Killian, have just been quicker than the rest. But E69 here providing some really good stuff for us neutrals. This is the closest fight on track. We have got Padge battling with Richard towards the back end of the grid. Let's have a check-in on how these two are getting on. Richard on brand new hard compound, just trying to get them up to temperature. Chaz pits to serve the drive-through penalty. And Carito, on those new set of medium compound tyres, has set a new fastest lap of the race. Top Gun, nice race so far from him. 6.4 seconds off that leading pack. But considering the moves he's made through the field in the opening 13 laps so far, we'll be happy. And especially happy to have a gap behind to Exotic, who is no stranger to winning races here in IRL. TD battling with Fury for P7. Fury with that time penalty, so TD at the moment has the advantage. Talking of time penalties, Killian, 3-second time penalty, and with him needing to win tonight to close the gap on Josh, that time penalty could well have completely buried his chances at a title this season. We will have to wait and see, of course. Two Mercedes cars. Smaller Smiley, 10th place at the moment. Leading his teammate Asma Frog by just 0.6 of a second. Yellow flag in Sector 1. And there has been an incident where Padge and Richard have spun. Padge was battling with Greg. Was he? I can't remember. No, Padge and Richard were fighting, so that very well could be an incident, a crash, some kind of contact. And unfortunately for both drivers, a spin apiece is the deal. And E69 seems to have a spring in his step. Closest he's been to Josh all Grand Prix. But Josh is starting to catch the race leader. Gap has gone from 1.6 2 laps ago now to 1.1. Josh, I wonder if he's using some ERS. Maybe he just enjoying these hard compound tyres the longer they go into this Grand Prix. Deflated Wee looks to have responded in that middle sector as Padge opts to retire from the Grand Prix in the pit lane. 15 remaining. Lap 15. Killian, you can see just in the background there, has lost DRS on E69. But Josh still hasn't gained DRS back on Deflated Wee yet. Killian does set a new fastest lap of the Grand Prix, so he is pushing Top Gun into the pits. Lap 16, so half the race on the hards, half the race on the mediums. Wonder if this is the opportune lap to pit. And the pit stop window well and truly open. Does mean that one of those top 4 could pit early, try and get an undercut of sorts. E69 could try and undercut Josh. Josh could try and undercut Deflated. Killian needs to try something to keep his championship hopes alive. Padge, my clutch didn't register at the start. That is a shame, mate. Yeah, hard luck, but you know, there's next week. Spain, a bit of an easier track for the wheel users, I think. Joseph Hales boxes and goes on to the soft compound. Interesting. I doubt those softs will go the remainder of the Grand Prix, so I imagine he's on to 2 soft stints. Or maybe he moved the MFD the wrong way and meant to go on hard compound. That has happened before. Smaller Smiley pits. Releases his teammate into 9th. Top Gun on the brand new mediums behind is catching. And a nice battle here between an OG and a newbie. Little Chaz. Young blood in this league, trying to get past the old wily fox Greg, who was raced over 130 times in this league. If you joined us on Tuesday, you would know that it was our 200th Grand Prix in the league. And Greg has attended 130 of those 200 races. Most Grand Prix races was Mr. Wiggles. He's had over 150 races attended. Or almost 150, I should say, sorry. More pit stops happening. Killian and Exotic. Killian needed to try that undercut, try and get some advantage on the top 3. Wasn't in DRS range, might find himself within DRS range once everyone makes their pit stop. Asthma Frog into the pits, off those hard compound, will put on a set of mediums but has a 5-second penalty for speeding in the pit lane. Chaz stays out on that hard compound tyre. Carito and Killian fighting in turn 5. And this is not good news for Killian. He needs to get past Carito ASAP. Otherwise, this undercut opportunity is not going to work. And he is losing time. Behind Carito in that Red Bull. And Josh pits. Interesting for Josh to pit earlier and deflated. E69 has had an issue. He's now 7 seconds behind. What has happened to E69? We have missed it on track as we have Exotic, and he has spun on the cold tyres. That's not the first driver to do so. TD pits, and Josh exits the pit lane. And Carito is all the way back on that main straight, going for a move on Carito, sorry, into the first corner. Gets that move done, but Killian has lost a good 2.5 seconds on Josh just by being held up by Carito there. And Josh has the bit between his teeth now. Deflated, needs to box this lap. You can see him, and he's in no man's land, but he is leading this Grand Prix, hasn't put a foot wrong, and I would be very surprised to see him stay out here. Indeed, he does pit. Doesn't get a time penalty for speeding, that is really important. That will completely ruin any hope of winning this Grand Prix. Deflated Wheat has stopped for tyres and is getting going again. Josh coming around the final corner now. Deflated Wheat trundling out of the pit lane. Gets the limiter off. There's Josh on the right hand side of his screen. And it may look like a nice gap right now, but Josh will have those tyres up to temperature. And in the next sector or two, he is going to start to gain and get within DRS range Fury stays out to lead this race. You see Deflated Wee there in the foreground, weaving to get heat and temperature in those tyres. And Josh's undercut by 1 lap has proved really decisive here. But how decisive will it be? Usually the roles are reversed. Josh this season many times has stayed out for the overcut attempts and gone longer in the first stint than Deflated, but this undercut seems to be working a treat. Killian 2.5 seconds behind Josh and Deflated. Joseph Hales has retired in the pit lane. Strange race, had no race pace, says Hales. That is a shame, mate. It's, next week we're in Spain. Could be a different story for you. And this is the battle that's sprung to life. Battle for the lead of the race. And indeed, another twist in the title race. Josh leads Wee in the title by 11 points. If Wee were to win this, he would close the gap to 4 points. If Josh were to beat Wee here, then the gap would open up to 18 points. Carito's extreme undercut, 7 laps earlier than most of the top runners, has rewarded him with P4 right now. Would be a very strong result considering he was battling for P7 earlier in the Grand Prix. We got a spinning Mercedes of Asthma Frog, currently last. Got Smaller and Richard fighting. E69, after that moment, we're not sure when or where, that time penalty now as well, is battling Top Gun for 5th, was on for a potential podium here tonight. But E69 will be happy to come out with a P5 finish here. Richard lagging all over the place, has to be said. Smaller Smiley, great straight line speed. And I have to say, having someone lag like that in front of you really puts you off your game. And that will explain the 3-second penalty that Smaller Smiley has got cutting turn 1. Chaz yet to pit. Maybe going for a hard to soft strat. Maybe a fastest lap attempt coming up for Chaz. Still the battle rages out front. Top 2 separated by 6/10. Top 6 have all started lap 23. 10 laps remaining. And as things stand, there is only going to be 4 points separating the top 2 with 2 rounds to go. Asthma Frog with, unfortunately, another spin. This time towards the end of the race, towards the end of the lap. Chaz, pretty good pace, not going to lie, on those 22 lap old hard compound tyre, compared to Greg ahead, who has been on those mediums for only 12 laps. But Chaz staying in contention here. But he will obviously need to pit. Carito has been caught. That 2-second gap back to E69 has been eradicated very quickly. course, E69 with that time penalty does need to get past Carito at the earliest possible moment. Carito has opted to pit for a two-stop strategy and is on to another set of new medium compound tyres. Killian firmly cemented in P3 now with E69's time penalty. Has a 4.6 second gap back to this battle for fourth. Top Gun will be hoping to get past that Alfa Romeo as soon as possible and then make inroads for a possible third place. Killian just needs to make sure he doesn't get another time penalty here. That will reduce him to fourth place. Exotic, a little bit of a lonely race at times. P6 at the moment, has a nice gap on Fury behind. TD after the snap on turn 1, which cost him a load of places. Nice little recovery up to P8, could find himself in the top 7. Greg, Mr. Consistent as always in the points, but Carito only a few seconds behind him with brand new tyres on the car. Top Gun, rear wing, wide open. But not quite close enough. Check in with the top 2. Is there anything to separate these top 2? Well, Deflated is running low on ERS, and Josh has a little bit more. That could be crucial for Josh. One thing I've noticed about these top 2, Josh seems to be turning earlier for the corners, which means he gains time in the early part of the corner, whereas Deflated gets better exits and pulls away out of the corner. That will help Deflated trying to defend out of the straights. Deflated has got a time penalty, you are right, that did happen very shortly, not too long ago, and I missed it. And the title picture takes another twist. Deflated here needs to put pressure on Josh to get a time penalty himself. There's no way that Josh will get one without being under pressure. Deflated needs to force Josh into getting a 3-second penalty. Lap 26. Race rapidly coming to an end. It's not been the best race to watch, I'll admit that. There's been a few overtakes here and there. Nothing truly outstanding to note. A lot of consistent races out there, especially in the top half, as Exotic goes for his second spin of the night. And that one is going to cost him 6th and 7th place, behind TD now. Oh, and those tyres are very warm for Exotic, and that's Carito who will come round to overtake into 8th place. Exotic planes into the pits, where he retires. Shame to see. Sometimes when it's not going for you, it's just not going for you. This will promote Smaller Smiley into the top 10, where as things stand he will get a point ahead of Richard. Position change then. No change for the top three. Apologies, I said Killian started 4th on the grid, he didn't, he started 3rd. E69, after that great start, up a couple of places. Top Gun also making moves through the field. Fury, with that moment earlier on, that's the reason why he's 6th place instead of 5th place or higher. TD had a good and a bad lap 1, but a decent race so far. Up 2 places. Carito down 1, but that's only because he's on a 2-stop strategy. Greg, Smaller, Richard, all up places. Asmafrog and Chaz are down places as things stand. Everyone making the 1-stop, apart from Carito on the 2-stop. And only 2 fights happening right now. Top Gun and E69 have been battling for a while. Top Gun doesn't need to overtake. But if he wants a potential 3rd here ahead of Killian, he will need to make moves. ART in the mud. I doubt that. Pushing like mad after my spin on that lap, started overdriving, had same pace as Killian but got damage, wouldn't have got points, but oh well. That is a shame, Exotic, but it's always nice to have you on track with us. Hope to see you again soon. 2 more races in the season, next week at Spain, 2 weeks, final race at Japan. Feel free to reserve anytime you like. Fury, P6 gets a time penalty, shouldn't mean too much. Oh, in fact 6 seconds now might cost him a place to TD. Have to keep an eye on that delta between P6 and Fury in P6 and TD in P7. TD will just know that Fury has that penalty and he will be pushing to try and catch him. And Snack said Josh doesn't have to go for the move here. This is a real test of Josh's character. Will he be patient and not go for the move at all and rely on those time penalties to get him the win? Or will he decide to have some kind of go for the race lead on track? Oh, you're not mudded, Exotic. Richard's had a bit of a spin. And maybe not a spin, actually. Maybe just losing places. He's lost places to Asmo and Chaz. And E69 spinning at turn 1. Was going to lose P4 to Top Gun anyways. May lose a place to Fury here if he can't get those tyres under control. But with only 3 seconds of penalties, he should remain 5th. A championship on the line, don't risk it. Very wise decision. Smaller having a look, has performed some fantastic overtakes this season. There is the fastest lap for you. Wee has beaten Killian to it by a matter of hundredths. E69, Fury and Chaz all with valid attempts to try and nick it. After E69's spin, Top Gun has been released to try and catch Killian. The gap is 4.8 and Killian only has a 3-second time penalty, so Killian will remain on the podium in what will be the 5th race that we, Josh and Killian, share the podium all together. Smaller up into 9th, but that time penalty may finish him in 10th place with only a couple of laps remaining. And Josh, I think, has just made his decision. He's not going to go for a silly move and risk getting a time penalty. He's just going to see this race out, stay within 3 seconds of our race leader, and take the win on time penalties. That is the plan for Josh, who does lead the championship by 11 points. As things stand, with Josh winning this race, technically, he will extend the championship lead to 17 points. It would be 18, but Deflated has that fastest lap, which gives him an extra point. Well, now is a good opportunity to talk about Driver of the Day. There have been some impressive drives out there. Top Gun has been impressive, no mistakes from him. Hasn't quite had the pace to challenge for the podium, as you see Killian pulling away from Top Gun, who should keep hold of third. Killian hasn't made a mistake, but that time penalty obviously set the tone a little bit for potentially where he might finish for this race. Third is the best he can hope for right now. Obviously Deflated would be a very strong shout at Driver of the Day had he not got that time penalty. And as they start the final lap of the race, Fury and E69 battling for P5. Fury with more time penalties, so E69 just needs to keep his nose clean and he will get P5 back. Check on board with them in a minute, but Josh has had a strong challenge this season. Last season he won the championship by quite a big margin. This season has not been as easy for him. It has been a very tough ordeal out there. Deflated we will win this on track, and we'll check the checkered flag for the Portuguese Grand Prix victory, but Josh will get the 25 points and extend his championship lead to 17 points. Deflated is not out of it. Killian, no mistakes apart from that time penalty, will finish in third, and I will get confirmation if Killian is still in the title fight in a few moments' time. Top Gun, great race, finishes P4. E69 ahead of Fury on time penalties. TD, solid race, had a couple of slight moments, but P7, I'm sure he'd be happy with that. Carito with the two-stop strategy just didn't quite work on this occasion. Still in the points, and P8 is his this evening. Smaller Smiley will come home to score 2 points for the Mercedes team. And P9 for Smaller. Chaz, on his debut, Crash always lucky not to retire before the line there. Oh, that is very lucky for Chaz. And he does get a point on his debut, so congratulations, Chaz. Richard will finish 11th place, and Greg will finish in 12th. Asma a lap down in 13th place with 5 retirements, all in the pits, aside from Squire, who brought out a VSC earlier on in the Grand Prix with a crash. Deflated we, my penalty should be removed. Track limits are rubbish. Or he hopes so anyway. So there is another twist in the tail. You'll have to check back in with us next week to see if Deflated We has indeed won this Grand Prix, or whether Josh has extended that championship lead. But I think Driver of the Day, I'm going to give it to Top Gun. Not easy, making your way through the field of fast drivers to finish 4th and only 13 points off the win. 13 seconds off the win, sorry. It's actually pretty good for someone who started in 8th place, so I give it to Josh, Wee and Killian all the time. I'm going to give it to Top Gun tonight. Not to detract, of course, from that top 3 and how quick they are. There are your final standings. Special mention to Chaz on his debut for getting a point. TD as well, special mention. And E69 for his quali pace. And that first stint was really good from the English Alfa Romeo driver. So Top Gun driver of the day, but provisionally Josh extends his championship lead to 17 points. If Deflated Wee gets that penalty removed, then Deflated Wee will have closed the gap to 3 points. Provisionally, Killian has lost 10 points to Josh tonight, which means that if things stand the way they are and Josh takes this victory away from Deflated, Killian, unfortunately, is no longer mathematically in with a title shot. It has been an absolutely marvellous effort from Killian, but this could have been the race where it's just got out of his grasp, unfortunately. But I think it just proves how strong Josh has been all season.